Imagine waking up tomorrow and seeing oil prices double overnight. Fuel stations are running dry, flights are being canceled, and food prices are suddenly rising. The cause of all this chaos is not a global war or a financial crash, but a narrow strip of water just 33 kilometers wide known as the Strait of Hormuz. This tiny passage carries nearly 20% of the world's oil every single day. Now imagine if it suddenly shuts down completely. No ships, no oil, and no energy flowing to the rest of the world. What you are about to hear is not just a geopolitical scenario, but a potential trigger for one of the biggest economic shocks in modern history. The Strait of Hormuz lies between Iran and Oman, acting as the only sea passage from the Persian Gulf to the open ocean. Despite its small size, it is the most critical energy choke point on Earth. Every day, around 20 million barrels of oil pass through it, along with massive shipments of liquefied natural gas. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, and Qatar rely almost entirely on this route to export their energy to the world. Most of that energy goes to Asian economies such as China, India, Japan, and South Korea. In simple terms, if oil is the lifeblood of the global economy, then the Strait of Hormuz is its main artery. What makes the situation even more dangerous is Iran's strategic position along this waterway. Iran doesn't need to completely block the strait to cause disruption. Even small actions can create massive consequences. For example, Iran could deploy naval mines, target oil tankers with drones or missiles, or simply threaten shipping companies. In global trade, fear alone can be enough to stop movement. If shipping companies believe the route is unsafe, they either delay shipments or avoid the area entirely. Insurance costs skyrocket, shipping slows down, and supply chains begin to crack. We have seen similar situations in the past where even minor tensions caused oil prices to spike dramatically. Now, let's imagine the worst-case scenario, where Iran fully closes the Strait of Hormuz. The first and most immediate impact would be a massive spike in oil prices. With a sudden drop in global supply, prices could jump to $120, $150, or even $170 per barrel. This kind of surge would hit every country on Earth almost instantly. Oil is not just used for fuel, it powers transportation, manufacturing, and even agriculture. When oil prices rise, the cost of nearly everything else rises with it. At the same time, countries around the world would begin panic buying. Governments would rush to secure whatever oil they can, releasing emergency reserves and competing with each other for limited supply. This creates a global bidding war, driving prices even higher. Meanwhile, shipping in the region would come to a near standstill. The Strait of Hormuz is not just used for oil, but also for gas, chemicals, and fertilizers. A shutdown would disrupt multiple industries at once, leading to severe supply chain breakdowns. In previous crises, shipping traffic in the region has dropped dramatically, showing just how fragile this system really is. Financial markets would react immediately. Investors hate uncertainty, and a sudden disruption of this scale would trigger panic selling. Stock markets around the world could fall sharply. Energy companies might see temporary gains, but airlines, transportation companies, and manufacturing sectors would suffer huge losses. What starts as a regional conflict quickly becomes a global financial shock. As the crisis continues, the effects would spread deeper into the global economy. Higher energy prices would lead to rising inflation, transportation costs increase, food becomes more expensive, and everyday goods become harder to afford. Businesses would struggle to manage rising costs while facing reduced consumer demand. Many companies would be forced to cut jobs, reduce production, or even shut down entirely. This creates a dangerous cycle where economic activity slows down while prices continue to rise. Central banks would face an extremely difficult situation. To control inflation, they might raise interest rates, but higher interest rates also slow down economic growth. This creates a condition known as stagflation, where the economy stagnates while inflation remains high. Stagflation is one of the most challenging economic scenarios because there are no easy solutions. If the crisis continues long enough, it could push the global economy into a full-scale recession with declining trade, reduced investment, and widespread unemployment. Not all countries would be affected equally. Asian economies would be hit the hardest because they depend heavily on oil passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Countries like China, India, Japan, and South Korea would face immediate energy shortages and rising costs. Europe would also feel the impact, especially through reduced natural gas supplies from Qatar, leading to higher heating and energy costs. The United States is less dependent on Middle Eastern oil, but it would still be affected through rising global prices and financial market instability. Ironically, even Middle Eastern countries would suffer because their ability to export oil would be blocked, cutting off a major source of national income. Beyond economics, there's also a serious risk of military escalation. Closing the Strait of Hormuz would likely trigger a strong response from the United States and its allies. This could include naval operations to secure shipping routes, clearing mines, and potentially direct military confrontation with Iran. Such actions could escalate into a wider regional conflict, or even a global one, making the economic situation far worse. You might wonder if the world has alternatives to the Strait of Hormuz. While there are some pipelines and alternative routes, they are not capable of handling the same volume of oil and gas. The sheer scale of energy flowing through this narrow passage makes it nearly impossible to replace in the short term. This is what makes the situation so dangerous. The global economy depends heavily on a single, vulnerable choke point. In the bigger picture, the Strait of Hormuz represents something much larger than just a geographic location. It highlights how interconnected and fragile the modern global economy really is. A disruption in one part of the world can quickly spread across continents, affecting everything from fuel prices to food costs to employment. It shows that global stability depends on maintaining the flow of critical resources through key choke points like this one. So the next time you hear about rising tensions in the Middle East, remember that it is not just a distant political issue, it has direct consequences for your daily life. It can affect the price you pay for fuel, the cost of groceries, and even the stability of your job. In today's interconnected world, a narrow stretch of water thousands of miles away has the power to impact billions of people. And that is why the Strait of Hormuz remains one of the most important and closely watched locations on Earth.